going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And today we're talking Game Week 4 preview. This is a video I do on this channel every single week, looking at the main talking points going into the next game week, and obviously covering anything that happened in the previous one as well. So if this is something you enjoy, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Much appreciated as always. In this one, we're talking patience. A lot of players not performing very well that may be in our teams that we're looking to get rid of. Kane frustration, premium forwards in general. Obviously Aguero is doing quite well. Other bits and bobs, should we be prioritising Man City, what to do about Martial, and of course captaincy as well. So let's jump into it and get going. So first of all, let's talk about patience. It's something that we talk about a lot, saying that we should be patient as managers, let players do what you brought them in to do, and basically not knee-jerk them out. So this was asked by FPL_Dave. Go and follow him on Twitter. He also does FPL streams on Twitch as well, so you might want to go and check them out. And some of the points that were kind of brought up either by him or by people that were replying, the market is really volatile right now, and this will feel worse if you've not got the players that are being brought in, and if you've got a lot of the players that are going down in price. The market being volatile at the start of the season is not anything new. It happens every single season, and shouldn't be something we worry about. I guess one thing I've kind of done when it comes to being patient, because I am quite a patient manager, and I do prefer to wait till the Friday, is I've kind of adapted as well. There's a lot of players that are in red hot form and it's really hard to go without. So I got Pookie early last week for a hit. I've already bought Barnes in this week as well because the underlying stats look great, and I didn't want to lose any more money on King. So I think part of being patient is also knowing when you've maybe not got it right. And if you've got a lot of these players in your team that just aren't performing, it probably is time to move on. And the one thing is not to be too hard on yourself, because at this stage of the season, especially in pre-season, we didn't have a whole lot to go on. We're kind of looking at last year, maybe a bit of pre-season form, fixtures and stuff like that. But no one can predict exactly how all the teams are going to perform. I don't think many people, for example, would have said that Liverpool weren't going to keep any clean sheets for the first 3 fixtures. I think most people would have given them at least one. So I think it was fine to have 1 or 2 Liverpool defenders in your team, but that hasn't got right. So maybe that's something you could rectify, or perhaps like me, you've lost those points already. So now this is the time to be patient and hold your nerve, because the next 2 fixtures might have some points coming. So don't worry as well too much about overall rank. Few people bought this up. They're very close at the moment, overall ranks. It only takes 1 or 2 big weeks for you to get massive rank jumps. So it's not something that I'd be worrying about. Clean sheets, obviously a lot of people getting impatient with defenders because there's not been too many clean sheets outside of the first week. And I think the one thing to ask yourself there is, do you think that's going to continue? Do you think Liverpool are going to continue not getting clean sheets? Are Man City going to keep conceding like a set piece like they did against Bournemouth? I know they conceded some other chances as well, but generally they're not conceding too many good quality chances against them. I've only got 1 clean sheet so far. Is that going to continue? Probably not. So I think there's not too much to worry about there. I don't think we need to make massive wholesale chances just yet. Another thing that got bought up was certain players, so Perez, Jota and Sigurdsson. And obviously one of the key questions is, how long are you patient for? Which is a pretty difficult thing to answer. I think you have to take each player on their own merits. I think you have to look at their form, what the fixtures are coming up like, and just kind of prioritise who to get out. So for example, if you have Perez, Jota and Sigurdsson, Perez' underlying stats are pretty poor. Leicester's fixtures are okay, but I don't think he's fitting too well in that Leicester side just yet. He's not really getting too many shots away, not being creative. Kind of Maddison's the kind of creative player in that team. And Vardy's the one that kind of scores goals, and Perez is kind of sat somewhere in the middle, not really doing too much. So I'd be looking maybe to shift him out. Jota, similar. He's posting pretty good stats, but I think Europe is hurting Wolves a little bit. I don't really think in the league they've got off and running too much. And the fixtures aren't great. Everton away, Chelsea at home, Palace away, and then Watford at home, and then City away. So it's kind of a mixed bag. As good as they are, Wolves, I don't like those fixtures too much. So Jota, again, it's very hard, I think, to stay patient with him when Pookie and Barnes are performing so well. And I think this early on in the season, you can make that kind of move, especially if you've got your wild card in hand. And that's something I want to say as well. Don't be afraid to wildcard if you need to. Last year I wildcarded in Game Week 5. I tried to be patient for the first 4 weeks. In the end, I just had too many players that weren't performing, too many players that were going down in price, and there was other players that I needed to jump on either because they were doing well or they've got good underlying stats. And they're the players that you obviously want, especially at the start of the season. So I think adaptability is probably more important than patience right now. If you've got all those players that aren't performing, yes, you can be patient for a few weeks, but if it's going to carry on, you're obviously going to lose rank, and that's going to get frustrating going forward. So you may have made a mistake. You may have just not predicted something that's happened, and we're all in that boat. And so if you've got the wild card in hand and you've got a whole team you're not happy with, and you're going to make wholesale changes, kind of 7, 8, 9 players, maybe think about playing that as well. But try and be patient as much as you can, but there obviously is a limit, and for some players I think maybe it's time for them to go. Premium forwards being talked about quite a bit right now. Obviously Aguero's performing quite well. Kane has been super frustrating if you bought him in on your wild card for that Newcastle game, or if you held him for that and you've kind of not gone for the likes of Pukki, maybe Barnes, even Haller recently, although probably not as much frustration with him because he's only just got his goals. But yeah, Kane frustration, and I think you can consider yourself a little bit unlucky at the weekend because that should have been a penalty at the end. I'm not having the argument that Kane was looking for it and went down. The player, Lascelles, dived into him and took him out, and I'm putting that down as a penalty, but I've discussed it a lot on Twitter, so I won't talk about it anymore. I think the key thing with Kane and Spurs in general is who's going to play. They started against Newcastle with kind of a really attacking formation. They had Kane, Son and Lucas Moura playing, kind of almost what you would see if they were playing someone that was going to attack them and they wanted to play on the counter-attack. They didn't have the likes of Eriksen to unlock that Newcastle defence. And that's the second time we've seen him bench now, and they struggled against Aston Villa, and they did really well to come back once he came on. But if there's something kind of going on behind the scenes where Eriksen's not going to play every single week, or they're maybe going to sell him, then I would worry about Kane. I think if you look at the fixtures, it's Arsenal away, North London derby. A lot of people will say that's a game for goals. It could also be tight as well. There's no guarantee he gets goals in that. Palace at home, Leicester away, and Southampton at home. So the fixtures are okay. The key question is, are there players performing better, especially for a cheaper price? And there are. And I'm going to mention these two a lot, but Pukki and Barnes. Appreciate that Barnes has got Liverpool this week, but they've both got better underlying stats and they've both got pretty nice fixtures coming up. Pukki's maybe a little bit mixed after this week. He's got Man City at home, but Kane's fixtures aren't a huge amount better, and if Eriksen's not going to play, I do worry about the amount of points he's going to get. So I just think my main opinion about premium forwards has not changed yet. I don't think they've done enough for me to change my mind, and that is they're not offering good enough value versus the likes of Salah and Sterling. And once you've got those two and maybe De Bruyne, it becomes very hard to then fit in a premium forward as well. And I think that's where the value for money comes. Are you going to captain the likes of Aubameyang, Aguero, Kane ahead of Sterling and Salah? Probably not most weeks. If you are, then obviously you need to stick with your premium forward. But if you're not, then you've got to ask the question, will 11 million or 12 million be spent better? So looking at kind of shots in the box, the three I've mentioned, Aguero, Aubameyang, Kane. Kane's got 7, Aubameyang and Aguero have got 6 shots in the box. I think Pukki's got something like 12, so he's nearly doubled their score. Obviously, Aguero's only played one less game. But for me, it's all about how you can fit in other players. Aubameyang's fixtures are quite nice, so maybe if you've got him, you could hold. But I'd seriously be looking at probably getting rid of Kane at this point, especially if you want to shift some of those funds in midfield. But he has scored well in the North London derby before, so you could give him one more chance, maybe go for 2 free transfers, and then make some kind of wholesale change after that. So captaincy up next. I went for Sterling last week. Obviously Salah did really well against Arsenal, so didn't quite get it nailed, but Sterling still got an attacking return. So as long as my captain doesn't blank and gets kind of 7 or 8 points or more, I'm usually pretty happy. But obviously you do want to nail that absolute kind of explosive option as well. So this week I think there's kind of 3 standouts. Salah, maybe Mane as well if you own him instead of Salah against Burnley away. Pukki versus West Ham away. Don't laugh at me just yet. My son has actually captained Pukki the last 2 weeks and obviously done really well. Sterling versus Brighton at home. Probably the number one for a lot of people. I think the thing with Pukki is a lot of people will be thinking this, and you probably shouldn't think like this, but we all do, in that he does play for Norwich. He scored 5 goals in 3. Probably not going to continue. Do I really want to captain him the week where he suddenly blanks? So here's the reason why I'd maybe look at Pukki. Obviously, underlying stats-wise, he's up there with Sterling for kind of attackers overall. His underlying shots in the box and things like that are extremely good and one of the best in the league right now. So that's obviously a good thing from his point. Looking at defensively for West Ham, they've got the worst expected goals conceded in the whole league. They're top for shots conceded in the box. One caveat to that is a lot of that would have come against Man City, and obviously once you play Man City, they are a hard team to beat and do have a lot of shots against you. So maybe take that with a little bit of pinch of salt, but I do think that West Ham and Norwich game could be quite open. So Pukki's a nice captain, but I appreciate it is maybe a little bit of a risk. Although he's quite highly owned right now, he's probably not going to be too highly captain. Then you've got Salah. I think Burnley kind of middle of the road for defence right now in terms of kind of shots conceded in the box. They're actually very similar to Liverpool. Burnley are going to be at home. They've got a good keeper in Pope. And I think it's the kind of fixture that can be frustrating for a team to go and attack at, like Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool, like Man City, kind of 2 of the best attacking teams in the league, but that could still be quite a tricky fixture. Sterling posting okay underlying stats, obviously he is on penalties as well, but I do think that Sterling just wins this. Man City as a whole team are already on 7.87 expected goals in 3 games, which is pretty insane. And Sterling's got 3.66 XG from that as well. That's from open play, so no penalties included in Sterling's stats, or the 7.87 for the team as a whole. So they're crazy attacking wise. Again, like I always say, you don't need me to tell you that. It's the home game. Sterling's explosive. He's got 5 and 3, so like Pookie, maybe you'll captain him at the wrong time where he doesn't get something. But the underlying stats are right up there. He plays for the right team, and they've got arguably the best fixture of the week as well. So for me, it's Sterling. I think Pookie's a really good option as well. And Salah, I would never bet against him. I do think Burnley away could be a bit of a tricky fixture. So just some other bits to cover that kind of came up in the tweets that I got in reply to my request for topics for this video. Do you need 2 free transfers for the international break? The international break gets talked about a lot. And I suppose the simple thing is it's always nice to have 2 free transfers, even if it's not an international break. The main reason people want them is because obviously players could get injured playing for their national squads. And you know they're going to be going away travelling, and you just don't know what's going to happen. So you could look to get 2 free transfers, but I think the priority is probably getting the points this week. And so if you've got nothing to do, then of course keep your free transfer. If there's a player that you really want to get in and a player you really need to get out, I would probably just do it and not to be too concerned about having 2. Chances are nothing will happen major over the international break, and if it does, if you've got a lot of the template players anyway, you're going to be in the same boat as a lot of people, and that always hits if it goes really badly. Are Man City the priority? I mean, they absolutely have to be. They probably should have been pre-season. I only started with 2 of their players. Probably should have started with De Bruyne as well, but I've got him in now. As I've just said for the captaincy, the underlying stats for an attacking point of view is already insane, and that's going to continue. And from a defensive point of view, they've definitely got more clean sheets in them. They've got good fixtures coming up. So I would definitely want 3 of their players right now. For me, it would be Sterling. I've got Sterling, De Bruyne and Zinchenko. It would either be Sterling plus De Bruyne plus a defender, or Sterling plus 2 defenders. Either way, you're going to get points, but I do like how well De Bruyne is ticking over, and he's going to keep getting attacking returns as well. I like Aguero. He's doing well. And you know he's already come in and got 3 goals in just 2 games, but I just think for the same money I still prefer Sterling just for now, and I think having Sterling and Aguero is quite a bit of money, and maybe something that we might look at a bit further on in the season when we've got a bit more of squad value to play around with. Martial injury concerns. I mean, the thing with this is you're going to have to wait till press conferences. There are rumours he's going to be out for a little while, but at the end of the day, we do not know. We have to wait until Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Man United come out and say it. If you're looking for replacements, let's say you do need to replace him, Mount looks the obvious pick. The only thing I will say is after Sheffield United at home, they have got Wolves and Liverpool, so tougher fixtures, but then they got a nice run. So for his price and the fixtures they got kind of before Wolves and Liverpool and after, he looks a good bet. He's creating chances, having shots. And obviously took his goal well against Norwich, so I do like him. But again, you have to wait for injury news on him too, because he did go off with a calf injury, but he probably is going to be okay. Looking at other players you could go for, I do think Mount's the obvious one. You've got Maddison being quite creative, a few shots in the box. Leicester got okay fixtures, like I said earlier. Bournemouth at home, Man United away, Spurs at home, then Newcastle at home as well. So it's not too bad, but not great either. And if you want to go for a punt, you could go for someone like Zaha. Villa at home, Spurs away, Wolves at home, Norwich at home. It's hard to say how he's doing so far. He's only played 2 games. Crystal Palace haven't looked great attacking wise, but I think he's got the fixtures that if he's going to get some goals soon, they're the fixtures he's going to do it in. So a bit of a punt, but I do like Mason Mount and I do own him, so maybe a little bit biased. And do we know enough yet? Again, don't make too many rash decisions. You've got the knowledge of who's done well for the first 3 weeks. That could change for the next 3 weeks. The likes of Pookie Barnes, good underlying stats. Mount's looking pretty good. De Bruyne is ticking over. Sterling and Salah are absolutely on it. So you know enough in that regard. But don't make too many rash decisions. Yes, there's been a lack of clean sheets in the last couple of game weeks. That could easily change. And obviously, we've got a few more game weeks till we want to look at all the data and decide who's doing well, who's not. I tend to look between 4 and 6 game weeks to kind of try and spot a trend. You may even need longer than that. I think 3 weeks not quite enough. So if you've got nothing major to do this week, maybe save a transfer and use 2 free transfers next week. But like I said earlier, as well as patience, you need adaptability. And if there's players you really need to bring in and players you really need to get rid of, just go ahead and do it. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any other questions, any counterpoints to what I've said. Do you think I've been talking rubbish? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. If you're new, subscribe around here. We did hit 50,000 subscribers today at the time of recording this, so thanks very much for that. It's awesome to see. I'd never thought I would hit that. So I guess it's onwards and upwards to 75k and 100k, but I think we're a few years off that just yet. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. Good luck in Game Week 4. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time.